folks, we are back. Yes, we are. It is 7:43 in the PM here on Friday, 6/26/26. Man, I think I might need to play lotto. I think I might need to play some lotto when I leave here. All right, folks, we are back here on Straight Out of the Cannon. And I promised you, after having a show full of, a lot of strife and political rancor, it's time for some good news. Yes, it is. It's time for some good news. So let's do it.
There is a light for the blind man, a sound for deaf ears. It's riches for forgotten souls that have nothing left to give. There is freedom from bondage for those who can't break free. This is the gospel of Jesus, and it's good news. Let us remember we have good news. We won't hide it in the shadows. We will light up the truth. Tell everybody what he's done for you. Shout it from the rooftops. We got good news.
Yes, good news. A few years we talked about a possible cure for sickle cell anemia, and guess what? It looks like it's on a go, because people are being cured regularly from sickle cell anemia. So please enjoy.
Emotional day as a 23-year-old New Orleans man rings in a new future at Manning Family Children's Hospital.
"23-year-old Daniel Cressy became the first person in Louisiana to be functionally cured of sickle cell disease through gene therapy. That means the disease is no longer active in his system. Cressy says that his dream of becoming a pilot was almost taken away from him because of this blood disorder. He says it was tough, a two-year journey under this procedure, and he wants to pay that forward with his own nonprofit to help other people going through sickle cell treatment.
This entire journey was the hardest thing I've done in my life. And the reason why I work so hard with our organization, Privileged Pilots, is because I don't want anybody else to have to experience the loneliness and the uncertainty and the hopelessness that I felt a couple of years ago.
Someone's ability to access treatment and potentially cure should not be defined by their zip code. People in Louisiana deserve the same opportunity as people anywhere else in this country. The people living with sickle cell disease are here. They're our neighbors, our friends, our families.
Doctors say the therapy uses a patient's very own stem cells that have been edited in a lab so they no longer produce the defective cells that cause the disease. We're told around 3,000 people in Louisiana have sickle cell disease. That is the highest rate per capita in this country.
Yes, so we've seen the story of Mr. Daniel Cressy, who successfully completed gene therapy at Manning Family Children's Hospital in New Orleans, and is now considered functionally cured of sickle cell. Now, again, we live in an area that has a very large black population, especially here in Gary. At one point, we were the blackest city in America, with, I believe, over 85% of the population being black Americans. And I went to school with a bunch of people who had sickle cell. I knew people who wouldn't have sickle cell. I made friends with people who had sickle cell. I know the toll that sickle cell anemia took on their bodies, even as kids. I knew that it was very hard. And to see this, I don't know how you can't be optimistic. But this is, what we have with scientific breakthroughs. This is what happens when you sort of invest in science. The first approved gene therapies for sickle cell disease are Casgevy, and Lyfgenia. They work by using the CRISPR gene editor to modify a patient's own blood stem cells so that they produce high levels of fetal hemoglobin, which does not sickle. Lyfgenia uses a modified virus to add a working hemoglobin gene into the patient's stem cells. In clinical trials, most of the treated patients had no severe pain crises for at least a year or longer, had major reductions in hospitalizations, improved quality of life, and much less red blood cell sickling. Some patients who had frequent debilitating pain crises have gone years without one after treatment. Now, I have to put the brakes on it a little bit because the doctors are cautious about using the word cure. The therapies can eliminate or drastically reduce symptoms for many patients, but patients are still being followed long term. Hopefully this holds up long term. The treatments are still relatively new, and researchers want to know whether these benefits will last for decades. And so, you know, I guess this is one of those situations where only time will tell whether people like Daniel Cressy will be basically free for the rest of his life. And we can only hope. This is a young man who wants to be a pilot and fly around the world. You know, he's got better things to do than to be cooped up in a hospital somewhere. We can only hope that this is a lifetime cure for him. So experts are describing this as a potential functional cure rather than a guaranteed lifelong cure. Now, there are also important limitations to know about this. Gene therapy is not a simple treatment. Doctors must collect the patient's blood stem cells. The cells are genetically modified in a laboratory. The patient undergoes high-dose chemotherapy to destroy existing bone marrow, which can be grueling. Oh my God. And the modified cells are infused back into the body. The recovery from this can take months. So you're going to pay a physical toll, and you're going to pay a financial toll as well, because this treatment can cost several $millions. For now, that's important. For now, this treatment can cost several $millions and will require specialized medical centers. Now, how significant is this? Many hematologists are considering gene therapy for sickle cell disease to be one of the most important medical breakthroughs of the 2000s. Isn't that something? Sickle cell disease was the first disease treated with an approved CRISPR-based therapy, marking a major milestone in genetic medicines. For people with severe sickle cell disease, these therapies have already allowed some patients to live for years without the pain crisis and complications that previously dominated their entire lives. So I think it's important to celebrate this. You know, this world can be so depressing, especially if you watch the news or read a lot of newspapers or you know, look around the news and you see things like what's happening in Venezuela, where I give all the prayers in the world. I'm sending all the prayers in the world to the people in Venezuela, or even here in Northwest Indiana. What we've seen in Maryville, Griffith just was destroyed. Much of Griffith was destroyed recently by these storms. Maryville, we saw what Maryville looks like, in places like Couts. It's important to understand that we do get some wins in this life and in this world. I know there's storms going on all over the place. I know there's earthquakes and tsunamis happening and these things happening. There's wars going on in the Middle East. There's wars going on in Eastern Europe. There's wars going on in a lot of the cities in our country. There's political wars going on in Washington, D.C. But there are good things happening. At all times, there are good things happening. There are people discovering cures for diseases every day. You know, we're seeing the fruits of generations of scientific knowledge being put to use, especially in much of the rest of the world, you know, that isn't having their budgets cut like we're having here in the United States. And it's important to also stress that much of this work costs money. And the Trump administration is cutting a lot of the budgets for diseases like cancer. We've seen they cut U.S. aid, and you know the toll of that could be millions of people around the world coming up in the next decade or so. So it's important to, you know, acknowledge the wins we get, but it's important to also stay vigilant and understand that this requires us to keep going forward and keep demanding that our government invest in these cures, like you're seeing in China, like you're seeing in Cuba, like you're seeing in South Korea, like you're seeing in so many of these other countries. They have governments that invest in medicine. And so they're seeing a lot of these diseases being cured in their country before we're curing it here. But yes, I'm very happy about Mr. Daniel Cressy and all there's been more than just him. There's been a few people who've been cured, functionally cured from sickle cell anemia. Hopefully in the near future, sickle cell will be just something that we talked about in the past tense, like scurvy or something, like something like that, or like polio or whatever. Where like, hey, like who's talking about polio? Where it's just something that, you know, we know people died from in the past and suffered with in the past, but you know, we don't even think about it much at all.